the first thing that God has been speaking to me about is actually fear. And in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, Proverbs is a book in the Bible, Old Testament. And in chapter 9 of Proverbs, verse 10, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Another translation in King James Version says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy is understanding." The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy is understanding. Now, for me, the reason that this is important is that he's, for one, I really believe, wanting us to live a life where we're, you know, living with wisdom, as opposed to the opposite, right? So a life with wisdom, as opposed to the opposite, which would be a life without wisdom. Wisdom is having some level of control over our mind, and I think one of the reasons he's highlighting this to me is because fear is one of the things that can very quickly make us lose control of our mind. You guys who have maybe been in kind of like a personal development space, you would know that like the idea of controlling your emotions and not making decisions based on your emotions is a really important concept in the natural and the humanistic and the world that we live in, where people are trying to teach people how to be better humans. Making decisions based on your emotions, it really doesn't end very well. And one of the reasons is because fear is a very dominant emotion. Fear can be such a powerful thing driving decisions in our lives. And you guys know this, just personally. But one of the things that, uh, I think it's interesting to think about fear and wisdom together, because fear actually makes people unwise. Fear makes people unwise. So why would God say in Proverbs chapter 9, why would he say the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom? Why would he say fear makes you wise? Why would he say that if fear is what actually takes over? The planting of fear in our mind is actually what makes us lose control of our mind. It's because when we understand the one who is in control, then we can actually rest and not operate in this state of chaos. We can rest in the fact that God is in control, and we can listen and obey. Because why? Fear is more than just one thing. Fear is not just a terror thing. Fear is also a reverence thing. It's a respect thing, like a servant respects their master. Fear is like an awe thing in this example. When somebody has fear of the Lord, they're like in awe that the Lord, they call him the Lord instead of just God or the universe. It's like, no, actually, you're the creator of the universe. You're not the tree or the rock. You're the one who made the trees and the rocks. And you are the one who has the power to take this whole thing out, just like you're the one who had the power to make this whole thing happen. And I'm in awe of that example when I see something happen in the natural, in nature. Nature is our natural. When I see that and I go and I stand in awe, I can be in awe of the creation of nature, or I can be in awe of the creator. And so fear of the Lord and understanding that the earth is the Lord and all who dwell in it, that is a real understanding that God is in charge of this whole thing. God is in charge of this whole thing. And if we don't have that as a foundation, then we can live in fear of man, in fear of all the things happening, in fear of, the next headline and news and things that are totally outside of our control. And I think a lot of people over the last couple of years have been living in that state. Fear has been, and I'm talking the human fear, um, I'll call it the not godly fear, the fear of God, but I'm talking anything below it. Okay. If it's not of God, it's anything else. And I'm talking about the anything else here has really been an attack. The fear that has existed in the world, if you picked up your phone, if you read any kind of news over the last couple of years, even right now, I mean, fear just comes through and it totally attacks the mind. And it is the exact thing that will destroy wisdom if you don't have the foundational thing, which is to fear God and keep that in mind first, right? Because God knows all things. God knows all things. And when you know who God is and his character, and you know that he's merciful, But when you also know who God is and his responsibility as a judge, you know that God will bring righteous judgment because he's fair. You also know that God can bring mercy in his character because that's who he is. The two of those things really matter when you're thinking about the things that are around you, when you think about injustices in your own life, injustices in the world, things that are outside of your control, and for that matter, when you think about things that people in our world say that they have control of, and then 2 seconds later they say, we actually have no idea. And the fear can creep in there. But it's like, well, actually, yeah, because my faith can't be in man, my faith has to be in God. And if God is going to work through man or woman, right? I'm talking about both in this example, but if God's going to work through man, great. But if not, my faith is still in God. My faith cannot be shaken. And that is the beginning of wisdom, is understanding that God is in control of this whole thing.